So, Toastmasters and guests, would you please welcome Paul Marnie with his speech entitled Climate Friendly Power. Climate Friendly Power from Paul Marnie.
Well, hi, this is GRFM and it's Ramble with Randall, and we have a very special guest tonight. Now, you know, we've heard a lot, we've talked a lot recently about nuclear power. Well, I'm very fortunate tonight. We have with us Paul Marnie of Mission Free Energy Corporation, and he's in Australia to meet with state and federal government representatives about his company's proposal to build Australia's first commercial nuclear power plant. He claims that the nuclear power is the most suitable form of power to replace our existing coal-fired plants. He also believes it will be an essential step if we are to overcome the dangers posed by climate change. I'd like to finish off now and welcome Paul Marnie. Hello, Paul, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, George.
Well, it's great to have you in the show today.
Thank you very much.
Please tell us what you have.
Okay, George, I think the main thing I want to talk about, the main concern I have is climate change. I think it's the greatest threat to human civilization and all life on the planet. And I'm just wondering if your listeners realise that over the last 425,000 years, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has never exceeded 300 parts per million until the last 100 years. And do you know what it is now, George? 390 parts per million. It's increased from 310 in 1960 to 390. And the last time it was at 390 was 3 million years ago, when sea levels were 25 metres higher than they are now. And there is a lag in these things. There's a very strong correlation between CO2 and temperature and sea level. So I believe the best way to overcome this problem is nuclear power. Now, I'm talking about a new form of nuclear power. It's generation 4, the fourth generation power. Most plants around the world now are generation 2, and generation 3 plants are now in construction and operating. And generation 4 is what we call in our business an integral fast reactor. And this type of technology was developed in the 1940s by one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century, Enrico Fermi at Chicago University. And it is significantly different to the nuclear power that you might know. George, one of the key benefits is that nuclear power offers an incredibly dense form of energy. Now, could you tell the listeners what I'm handing you right now? Could you describe that, please?
Well, it looks to me like a ping pong
ball. It is. That's because it is a ping pong ball. Now imagine that ping pong ball weighed nearly 1 kilogram and it was made of uranium. If so, that would supply you with enough energy to supply all your energy needs for your entire life. Current coal-fired power stations to supply 1 gigawatt of power, which is about 1/6 of Victoria's needs, require 4 million tonnes of coal. Conventional nuclear power, to supply the same amount of energy, require 180 tonnes of uranium. A generation 4 reactor, which is what Emissions Free Energy Corporation is all about, require 1 tonne. Not 4 million, not 180, but 1 tonne. Emissions Free Energy, we call it EFI for short, also have another huge advantage in that they can take the waste from past nuclear reactors activities and use that waste as fuel. Why is that? Why is that, George, do you think? Well, let me tell you. Because traditional nuclear reactors use only 1% of the energy in that uranium. 1%, and 99% is waste. The new integral fast reactors use 99% of the energy. And there is waste lying all around the world in nuclear warheads and waste from nuclear power plants that can be used as fuel for these new reactors. Another key benefit is that they are inherently safe because they use metal fuel rather than ceramic oxide in traditional reactors, and if there's any interruption with the process, the fuel rods expand and move apart and the whole process slows down and ceases without any human interaction. And the sodium coolant, through convection waves, draws the heat away automatically, without pumps, without any human action. So that's it in a nutshell, George. That's what we're on about.
Well, I've got to say I've been really well informed, and you obviously have a tremendous amount of knowledge on this subject. I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
I mean, you did mention, it's obviously going to be on our listeners' lips in terms of what really is the safety situation, and would people near the plant be safe from this incredible radiation, especially given what's happened recently?
Yeah, it's certainly at top of people's list. I agree with that. But do you know that around a nuclear power plant, the amount of radiation emanating in normal circumstances is only about 1/10,000th of the background radiation? Do you know that there's more radiation in a banana than you would receive?
I just bring me on.
What you would receive. And also remember that coal releases mercury, arsenic, sulfates, and all sorts of other nasties that people are inhaling. Mercury is a terrible, terrible component which causes loss of intelligence, learning difficulties, all sorts of problems, and it's in the air around coal-fired power plants.
That's very interesting. Could you talked a little bit about using the products of the nuclear power plants afterwards? How can this product be used then?
Well, the waste from the EFE products, FE reactors, can be used in what's essential these days still in medical applications like radiology and industrial purposes. There's so little waste, but there's still enough to supply that need. You know, we've got the Lucas Heights reactor in New South Wales. Well, that's there because we need nuclear reactors to supply medical and industrial needs, and we can supply them with our waste.
What about the more sinister use, as in nuclear weapons?
Well, the plutonium that is required for nuclear weapons, most of it is burned in our process, so it won't be available for weapons-grade material. So it's eliminating that need. Even if it could be used, if somebody was to interrupt the process and extract uranium beforehand, well, they've already got the technology out there with all the reactors that are there now. All we're saying is let's use a different type of reactor for our ongoing energy needs. But it's not adding to this problem, it is just a problem that exists anyway. The genie is out of the bottle in that, but we use the plutonium, so there's very little risk.
Well, I think our listeners would be very interested to hear all that. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we move on? Because we've got a lot to get through in the show tonight.
Well, I'd just like to remind people again, George, of the catastrophe that awaits us with climate change if we do not act. And I don't believe solar or wind or other so-called renewable energy will supply enough when the world population is projected to grow from 6.5 billion to 9.5 billion by 2050, with a growing middle class in India, China and elsewhere.
Well, it certainly sounds like a worthwhile exercise, and I wish you, the Emissions Free Energy Corporation, and you yourself, Paul, every success in the adventure.
Thank you very much, George.